Chatsworth House. So this is the Chatsworth House, where on the inside they actually film The Crown. And that's where we're gonna have lunch. It used to be the stables. So here they're having a vintage car show during the Chatsworth Fair, which coincidentally happens on these 2 days while we're here on the way to Crewe. So this is the entrance to the Chatsworth House, and you're greeted by the loo. So this Chatsworth House was owned by the family, the Cavendishes, for 16 generations since the 1500s. Inside the Chatsworth House, in the great chamber where the king would have received and had audience with people. So this is not a real violin, it's a trompe-l'oeil painting of a violin. So we're in the guest bedrooms. So Mary Queen of Scots was in all of these guest bedrooms, confined, and windows only to the courtyard.
Have you gone to Pebble Beach?
Yes. This is the stables for the Cavendish Chatsworth House. And those are the Triumph Stags. So it's the Aston Martin. And this one is a Morgan.
Yeah, I got
so this is Henry Royce's house. Recently sold for over £2 million. So now we're in the gift shop of the Bentley Motors factory. So here we are inside the vintage area of the Bentley factory. This is a 1926. This is the oldest surviving Bentley in existence from 1920. This year they're celebrating 100 years from 1919 to 2019. This is the Derby 3 Bentley from 1934.
That princess wanted her car made in the same colour as them sequins around the dress. And we named it Sequin Blue. It's one of the most popular.
This is the master warehouse. We're 150,000 square feet. All products for any Bentley or any Rolls Royce, Privé, and we put all the fast movers together. Because when we're picking, we want to make sure we're optimising that pick. So the example I tend is location. Once he gets to the location, we'll ask him to verify the part number. And what you may notice in locations, there are more than one part number in the line.
So you're going to pick from 11.5 metres then. What you see is the truck steers itself now on the wire.
For a while.
So this is
we
the
used to be on
wire
the main
guide.
sites, just over 12 years
When you're up there, you
ago.
can't see the wheels.
So here the Bentley Drivers Club from England came out to meet us. We're staying at the hotel here for 2 nights, and they were good enough to show up in force. This looks like the new Bentley Mulsanne.
Training, you're posted to a duty station where you work in shift. There's no time to speak when you're on duty. You're there to listen with all the concentration you possess. That message will be of tremendous importance to the branch you serve. The long weeks of training,
Tabulating machines and punchers and administrative offices. So this is Block C from the outside.
Radio station, which is what we use today.
At the moment, it's terrible speed, wind speed, isn't it? For the storm.
It's an exhibit on breaking Japanese codes.
The ring setting of each rotor, the rotor position on the shaft, the plugboard jumper wires, and the starting settings of the rotor is ready to start typing in the original message.
These are the huts. So this is Alan Turing's office, where he broke the codes. He eventually died of cyanide, and at first they called it suicide, but no one knows.
Part of the keys and work out which station is which if they don't get the registers right.
It's nothing like that. It's at the chess club that Mr. Alexander set up.
Control, we need you to double bank on 6950 kilocycles. Yes, North Africa.
For heaven's sake.
They're worried that if there are fewer than 6 women, they might get up to hanky-panky with the men.
Hanky-panky.
It's terrible on your feet and ankles, but we have to do our bit. I remember when I first joined up, I was scrubbing toilets.
This is the famous mansion in Bletchley Park where the commanders were posted.
Every day, now, there are passing to and fro upon the several oceans of the world no less than 11 million tons. We've lost 2 large warships, the Royal Oak and the Courageous.
And the Allies can decipher German battlegrounds, giving them a crucial advantage. From 9 house.
Because I recognise the end of the pub, as one might expect of a Yorkshireman to recognise the end of a pub. So, what we're going to do, we're going to split you into roughly way back, and when we get chance, we will then go upstairs to look at the archives. A cloud and a phantom, I believe. Now, that is what's called the Mitzi Trophy. Being an employee of Rolls Royce, if you reached a certain stage, you were then eligible for a company car, which was a Rolls Royce. Unfortunately, just because they were senior members of the management didn't mean to say they were very good drivers. And regularly, one of the directors or one of the very senior engineers would have a crash. And to commemorate that crash, that was made and it was presented to whoever crashed a Rolls Royce and till the next person crashed it. Well over 100,000 powered which American fighter? Come on, you must all know this. That's a British fighter sound. You know, unmistakable. We have superchargers, etc., etc. But it's a Rolls Royce engine, but it was developed by Bristol Siddeley. So it's not, although it's made by.
This one holds the record on ice, 205 miles an hour.
You can't stop it, hence the in here.
Well, we believe so. Basically French. Now, we get lots of French cars over here, so I'm not going to say too much about it, but it won't be very complimentary. I shouldn't say that, I might be upset people.
They're rubbish.
Sorry?
This one needs lots of work, yes.
It needs a bit of work to get it back on the road.
So these are the records from Rolls Royce
If everybody went, and it was
back in 1904, and they're digitalising
an
now.
electric charger, and you're driving across.
These are all the rare tools that were used to build the Rolls Royces from 1904. And should people anywhere in the world restore one of those old cars, the Rolls Royce Enthusiasts Club will ship out the tools and then it'll get returned.
Attention to this. This is the Royal Standard. It was flown on the King's car when he was in France in the First World War. And if you look around, we have various engines. We have a demonstration Silver Wraith engine that is running on electric, particularly to avoid that situation. It's not live, so I'm not going to collapse in a heap with electric shock. But if you look at it closely, it says Rolls Royce patent. And we have members who come here and they have no idea that that was one of Royce's inventions. Generators, electric motors, whatever. And one of the early products that he made when he first went into business was bell pushes. So he did everything. Records. There are over 30,000 folders there and everyone is being digitised.
Just take it home and that's it. And I bring it back every morning and plug it in again.
How often do you update the database then?
So here we are, Frank Dow and Stepsons. And he's one of the owners.
We packed it out. It wasn't working very well, so we decided we
On Monday. Or part of that. I didn't want to. Oh, you've got money. Credits.
And again, we're delighted to receive you today. So I think we wanted to get just a quick picture of you, if that was okay. And again, if anyone has any questions.
So now we're at the Rolls Royce Factory in Goodwood, England. So this is the Phantom, the Dawn, and the Ghost.
60 on 16 to 19 year olds, isn't that lovely? We're doing 3, 4 and 5 year apprenticeships in wood, cabinet making, paint, leather, seamstress and engineering. Now these little kids, the youngsters, I call them kids, they said, look,
this is Showbox Derby, the Goodwood Speed.
The famous Scotsman, who designed the first Phantom here, he decided to challenge these people, and he built this one. Now, we couldn't use the lady, there's been no engine. Guess who came second? Ferrari. They were really upset.
All these art installations are with these blue lights. It's all dark, but you have these blue lights and coordinates flowing everywhere. So what he wanted, because he was really fascinated by the style of headliner, is to have a flow of coordinates on the side.
Else. You turn up, I believe it's been referred to sometimes in your part of the world as tailgating. So at Rolls Royce we want you to be able to do that in style, sophistication and elegance, and so with this you turn up, you press this little button here, it all opens out, and there you've got a lovely little hosting set where you could serve some chilled, non-alcoholic beverages, certainly for the driver who's going to take you back home again. Little chopping boards and stuff so you can...
This is Arundel Castle. It's supposed to be one of the biggest castles in England. It's from the year 1067. So this is inside the castle. A lot of dead animals. So this is the private chapel inside this here castle, Arundel. Arundel means it's by the river Arun, and Dale means the valley.
And the conqueror?
Yeah, we had a democracy. He wasn't allowing that. So Charles I, so he was beheaded, and then the country started fighting against each other.
So the Brits against the Brits?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Parliamentarians against the loyalists.
I
and the parliamentarians at the time won.
Okay.
So she died in childbirth.
Really broke his heart. He married 3 times, and each one of them died in childbirth. That sort of thing.
The Duke of Norfolk. He doesn't let.
So this is Anne Boleyn's rosary. Didn't do her any good.
These are used, yes. Most of the rooms you
Aaron's home, 90 head. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, this is the Canaletto room. So which room is this one?
It's the drawing room. Drawing room.
So this is the crest of the Duke of Norfolk.
Crest in those days.
And these are the different families that married into it.
Exactly that. Funny, none of my relatives. Nor mine. I didn't want to. You snuck on. Pardon? You snuck up on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So that's the keep from 1067.
Yes, but it would have been probably wood originally.
Oh, okay.
Century, and they used to put it on the end of a table when they were having a meal and have music.
This is a gentleman's library.
And the legs were put on later. So 20 or 30 years later, the legs were put on. It's a pretty little thing.
And are these the current
The children, when they were just there with the children,
Oh, yeah.
they were very small.
And I see there, I assume that's the Navy?
HMS Norfolk. So the Duke of Norfolk was on board. He wasn't in the Navy.
Okay.
He was an army man. But he was invited on board because it was HMS Norfolk.
Very good.
Good ribbon. Yeah.
So it's inside the Fiennes Restoration shop.
Built up as a racer and has a supercharger, which I did see somewhere. Woodworking shop. This car is just here because there's no room for it through woodwork down the centre. You need two pieces of veneer. One is flipped over, and so you get an exact replica of the left half on the right. Because Rolls Royces of this era have a brake servo which is mechanically driven. So there's a shaft coming out of the gearbox here, and there's a couple of clutch plates in there, and as you apply the brakes, the clutch plates tighten up, and it operates this shaft and pulls on the various levers to give you power-assisted braking on the front.
Never seen doors
So these
like this
doors
before.
were made to just pull backwards.
Now notice yellow tape on the wheel nut here. That's
And there's the hinge.
when we undo the wheel nuts. Yeah, if it's in for steering, you can get a lot of slop on the steering, and this wasn't sorted out until the M series Derby Bentley. That's the light blue one we were looking at.
Mechanism works. And then the copper pipe is the one-shot
Brass
lubrication. A brass pipe.
Yeah.
And it also lubricates in here.
Alvin's going to be happy when he gets
These are fairly new. We've made pistons before, but this is a bit of a new thing. So it will be a 7 or 8 litre. This will be a Phantom 1 or 2, and they have 2 spark plugs. Okay, so 6-cylinder, 12 spark plugs. One set run off magneto, the other set run off the ignition coil. This is the main bearing shell. This would be set up in there. Main bearing cap, sorry, and then the bearing would be fitted in there with the white metal. Cutters would be on here, and that would cut. Absolutely crucial that we don't get anything in the oilways, so I'm sure as it's not sealed. This is a hydraulic jack that's fitted to the pre-war Wraith and other vehicles, so this wouldn't have been Rolls only. You can see a very fine thread there, and this would have
Was the whole room painted white?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. There's a picture of it there, how it looked in 1800 and something. And then the incumbents of the castle decided it was all wrong and it should be taken off again.
Castle, but your, I don't know what you call him, your leader, your tour guide,
Leader.
Please could you be back in the car parks? So you had your great hall, which you're standing in. Through the little brown door, underneath the armour, you had the kitchens, and then through the two little arched way alleyways towards it, you look at a typical English Tudor house. It has, well really, it hasn't changed much since 1554. There's been decorative things, if you like. Ceilings have been changed, wallpapers, this shiny, sort of silvery looking armour up the top in 1300. But it obviously didn't look like this. You wouldn't have had panelling or stone flooring or fireplaces. This was a basic storeroom. But in the 1554 upgrading, modernisation of the house, it became a parlour. Tell me, to keep quiet if you do. But all the staircases like that, these spiral stone ones in England, if you go into a castle or a church tower, they always go round to the right. And that is defence. With your sword arm. Yes, it is. In England, you were only allowed to use your right hand for sword. It wasn't terribly nice because it meant that they very rarely fitted. So any insects, spiders, mice, droppings came through the floor onto you below. So what you're in now, we grandly call it the King's Chamber, which means that the Queen Anne was in the room we just left, but her husband, the King, James I, he was in this area here. And we say area because the experts have been in. You have a 1554 ceiling, but the frieze going round is 1630. So we know that in the original 1554 house, this long gallery was the entire width of the building. I'd like to see the goldwork. That's the uniform of the controller of the royal household, and the present Lord Say's grandfather was the controller in 1912, and he's wearing that uniform in his official portrait on the long gallery. One of the main things in here is above us, because this ceiling is 1599, and it is the original. It isn't, it has not been altered. Yes, it's been re-lime washed every now and again, but it has never actually been altered. And all of the little motifs that you see are from the coat of arms of the Wickham family, the Twistleton family, and the Fiennes family, all into one. Then
gardener. I saw downstairs where there used to be 14.
There used to be 14 gardeners.
Yeah, geez.
Yes, there's one gardener. But we've come up here so you can go out on the roof. But this is very much English.
So this is the view from the Broughton Castle, which is not really a castle, it's a medieval home. 1460, it was originally built in 1377. We're up on the roof.
Levels, and the water can run out, which is great, because if we do get any really, really hot weather, which admittedly isn't that often, but if we do, we don't get...
They're waiting.
What time are we supposed to be back?
4:30. We don't have long to the garden.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the last room that you see, and this was the grand dining room. So this is 1554 grand dining room. Underneath us, the remains of the medieval kitchen. Panelling is 1554, but it's this dry, white, cornered look now, because in 1600 it was fashionable to lime wash it. So it would have been a creamy white, and it stayed like that until 1900 when they stripped it. The very ornate porch was originally upstairs in the room with the very pendant 1599 ceiling. And the Latin, and this is schoolgirl Latin, a long time ago, but it very roughly means that there is no pleasure in the memory of the past, Now this is
of approximately 125,000 people all in. When it comes to the age of this place, we're looking that there's been a settlement here for about 5,000 years. To put things into perspective, that's 3000 BC. That's pretty much the same time as they started screwing Stonehenge together. To put things once again into perspective.
So this is the Bridge of Sighs, and now we're going into the Bodleian Library, founded by Henry VIII. So this is inside the courtyard of the Bodleian Library.
Tomorrow, how many they say? How many on the tour? And they'd say 10, and they'd say, "Oh, that's not very many." Every day you go, "Oh, is that all? That's not very many." I know, one or two tours we have. But anyway, folks, I reckon this is the most beautiful.
So here we are in Blenheim Palace, home of where Winston Churchill was born.
Have you guys toured the palace?
Here we are in the parking lot of the Salon Prive, and these are cars that are not to be part of the show. Maseratis and McLarens and all sorts of strange things. Rolls Royces and Aston Martins and a purple thing. More Rolls Royces.
Oh yeah,
Because we came to that level.
This is the side of Blenheim Palace.
I bet you
Seeing you again. So this is a proper mansion. So these are Pagani.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Here are the McLarens. This is another one of those Dalaras. They've been in business for 50 years, but nobody's ever heard of them. And they make race cars, the chassis for all the Indy cars. So this is the new Pininfarina using electric engines, 2 million euros. So this is the Rimac, all electric. It's 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
That's not how you say it.
Yeah. So we can actually, agree to control that at the moment.
This is the experimental Bentley.
So it's not just solely a model, but it's the electronics. So yeah, you can
Automatically updates overnight, so they just download the software, which
So this is a 1961 Bentley, but it's a Pininfarina coupe, so the body was made by Pininfarina. So these are the gardens behind Blenheim Palace, and then people having lunch.
All concours entrance to their cars. If you have a rosette on your windshield, you have won an award today. But look, we need to get please for the next person, Mr. Adrian Hallmark, CEO of Bentley Motors himself. We are delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for all your support as well. Then,
very, very important, the beginning of Bentley. This is the very, very, very first car and the oldest surviving Bentley in the world. So, a hugely important car. Wolf Bornato was a Bentley boy, many-time Le Mans winner, also known to be a playboy and very, very wealthy man, and he was all about competition. He went to Le Mans, he won Le Mans, he wanted to win more races, and so he had Wally Hassan build this car, this very special car, using engine from old number 1, and this actual car did 143 miles an hour. Warren, this is a Bentley Corniche. It's a unique car, the Mark V Corniche. This car was designed by Bentley and it was used to develop the next model. It did 1,500 miles of endurance testing.
This is for a formal banquet. Blenheim Palace. Just imagine having a house with all your ancestors. Well, they had many centuries to read them.
We've got a good record of everything we've done on this trip.
Yes.
The incredible 1939 Bentley Corniche restored by Bentley's bespoke division model. Then, of course, Bentley's vision for the future, the all-electric.
This is the red drawing room in Blenheim Palace. This is to ring the bell for the butler. And this is a chaperone's couch for the courting couple. So this is the first Winston Churchill.
But the various conferences, such as so much Mrs. Olive Branch. It's very plate. Yeah, it is. It's amazing. It's trumped oil painting of it. It's in Wales, it's Anglesey, Pinches, and
I suppose there was no television, no newspapers, for leading tens of thousands of men to their death if necessary. You had to be seen as somebody pretty special.
So this is Consuela Vanderbilt, and she married the 9th Duke of Marlborough, and she helped pay for this palace. So this is Louis XIV.
Did you not listen to that last thingy, this one, the first stateroom?
No, it's the second one.
Oh, right.
This is the second stateroom. So this is where King George III slept in 1786. So this is the long library, 183 feet long. And this is where we had dinner last night at the banquet. There's the famous organ. And we're sitting right there.
So she's getting ready to have a go.
Right, she's gonna go bowling right down.
That's right, no, you certainly could.
That's Queen Anne.
Yeah.